I sat at my in-laws' dining table, feeling the tension build with each passing moment. My wife Amanda kept glancing at me with cold, distant eyes. The financial strain had taken a toll on our marriage, but nothing prepared me for what happened next. She reached for my wallet, threw it on the table, and called me a failure in front of her entire family. Her brother-in-law smirked her parents, exchanged knowing looks. 6 years of marriage, and this was what it had come to. The humiliation burned, but I simply stood up and walked away. If you want to know what self-respect looks like in the face of betrayal, stay with me. Let me know where you are watching from. Hit like and subscribe, and discover how this story of public humiliation turned into something unexpected. Amanda and I met during our junior year at Berkeley. She was studying business administration while I was pursuing computer science. We connected instantly over coffee, after literally bumping into each other at the campus library. Her smile captivated me from day one, and her ambition matched my own drive to succeed. After graduation, we dated for 2 years, before I proposed on a weekend trip to Lake Tahoe. The sunset reflecting off the water created the perfect backdrop for beginning our life together. The first 6 years of our marriage were everything I had hoped for. We complemented each other perfectly, or so I thought. Amanda landed a job at a marketing firm, while I worked my way up at a promising tech startup. We bought a modest house in a nice neighborhood, took vacations twice a year, and started planning for our future family. Life was good, stable, and our relationship felt unshakable. Everything changed 8 months ago. The startup I worked for faced unexpected funding issues. Despite solid performance metrics and positive feedback from my supervisors, I found myself among the 40% of employees laid off during a massive restructuring. The CEO delivered the news with rehearsed sympathy, offering a meager severance package that would barely cover 2 months of expenses. The job market in the tech sector had suddenly tightened. Companies that had been hiring aggressively were now implementing hiring freezes. I spent days polishing my resume, networking with former colleagues and applying to every relevant position. To maintain some income, I took on freelance web development projects which paid less than my previous salary but kept us afloat. Amanda initially seemed supportive, assuring me that we would get through this rough patch together. But as weeks turned into months, her patience wore thin. Small comments began to surface, subtle at first, but increasingly pointed. Kevin got another promotion at his firm, she would say about her friend Lisa's husband. They are looking at houses in Marin County now. Or Sarah says Tom is working so much he barely sees the kids, but at least they can afford that trip to Europe this summer. Each comparison felt like a tiny needle gradually deflating my confidence. I tried explaining that the tech industry was cyclical, that my skills were still in demand, and that this setback was temporary. But her eyes would glaze over, unimpressed by my assurances. Amanda came from an upper-middle-class family that placed immense value on financial success and material possessions. Her father, Richard, had built a successful insurance company from the ground up. Her mother, Diane, had never worked but devoted herself to maintaining their social standing in the community. From the beginning of our relationship, I sensed their reservation about me. Richard would often ask pointed questions about my career prospects, investment strategies, and 5-year plan, as if conducting a business interview rather than getting to know his future son-in-law. Brian, married to Amanda, sister Jessica, had become the golden son-in-law, a successful real estate broker with a knack for closing high-value properties. Brian represented everything Richard admired: ambition, financial acumen, and visible success. At family gatherings, Richard and Brian would discuss market trends and investment opportunities while I sat listening, contributing occasionally, but never quite breaking into their circle. Jessica, 2 years older than Amanda, had followed her parents' blueprint for success by marrying well and maintaining an image of perfection. Her social media showcased their luxurious home, exotic vacations, and carefully curated family portraits. Amanda would scroll through these posts with increasing frequency, sighing audibly as the gap between our lives and theirs widened. The invitation to Diane's birthday dinner arrived during a particularly difficult week. I had just been rejected from a promising position after 3 rounds of interviews, and our savings were dwindling dangerously low. Amanda insisted we attend, though I suggested sending a gift in our absence, citing our financial constraints. "We cannot miss Mom's birthday," she said firmly. "What would everyone think?" The drive to her parents' suburban estate was silent and tense. Amanda had spent money we did not have on an expensive dress and salon appointment, justifying it as necessary for appearances. I noticed her wedding ring was missing, replaced by a costume jewelry piece she claimed was more appropriate for the occasion. Each mile brought increasing dread as I anticipated the scrutiny awaiting me. The sprawling Tudor-style house loomed ahead as we pulled into the circular driveway. Luxury vehicles lined the perimeter, our 9-year-old Toyota Camry looking painfully out of place among Mercedes and BMWs. Amanda exited the car quickly, not waiting for me, as she usually would have in happier times. Richard greeted us at the door, champagne flute in hand. He hugged Amanda warmly before giving me a quick handshake and pointed glance at my modest button-up shirt and slacks, the best I could manage from my professional wardrobe that had not been updated since the layoff. Jason still pounding the pavement. Richard asked loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. "This economy is separating. The men from the boys is not it." Before I could respond, Brian appeared, slapping my back with exaggerated force. The tech bubble was bound to burst, man. Real assets, that is where security lies. Just closed on a $12 million property in Pacific Heights yesterday. Buyer paid cash. He winked at Amanda. "Some people know how to weather economic uncertainty." Jessica approached, kissing Amanda, before turning to me with a look of practiced sympathy. "Jason, you look tired. This job hunt must be so stressful. Have you considered going back to school? Maybe a different field altogether?" I forced a smile, determined to maintain dignity. "Actually, I have several promising leads. The right opportunity is worth waiting for, rather than jumping at the first offer." Amanda laughed sharply. "Promising leads. Is that what you are calling those 2 rejection emails you got yesterday?" The conversation mercifully shifted as Diane made her entrance, resplendent in an expensive designer dress. After accepting birthday wishes, she zeroed in on Amanda. "Darling, did you pick up that Hermes scarf I mentioned?" The limited edition one. Amanda's face flushed. "Not yet, Mom. Maybe for Christmas." "Oh," Diane replied, disappointment evident. "Jessica got it for me last week. I thought you would want to match her gift." Throughout dinner, the conversation centered on acquisitions and accomplishments. Brian detailed his recent commission structure while Richard discussed upgrading their vacation home in Napa. Jessica showcased photos of their recent trip to the Maldives, each image carefully curated to display maximum luxury. As the main course arrived, Richard turned to me. "So Jason, Amanda tells us you have been doing some small website jobs. Glad you found something to keep busy while looking for real work." I felt Amanda tense beside me. "Actually, freelancing has been rewarding. I am building a diverse portfolio while maintaining connection with the industry. Several of these projects could lead to full-time positions." Brian interjected. "Let me give you some financial advice as someone who understands market cycles. You should liquidate any investments now before they depreciate further. Cash is king during downturns. I could recommend some stable places to park whatever assets you have left." "We are managing," I replied, increasingly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. Amanda laughed bitterly. "Managing? We can barely make the mortgage payment this month. My credit card is maxed out covering groceries." She turned to her sister. "We had to cancel our streaming services, and I haven't been able to shop for new clothes in months." I stared at Amanda, shocked by her public disclosure of our private financial struggles. We had agreed to present a united front, regardless of our difficulties. Richard cleared his throat. "Amanda, perhaps you should have considered your future more carefully before certain decisions were made." His implication was clear, and the disapproving look he shot in my direction confirmed it. As the awkward silence stretched, I realized Amanda must have been complaining about me to her family for some time. This was not new information to them, but rather confirmation of a narrative already established in my absence. The conversation mercifully shifted to Brian and Jessica house hunting adventures. They were considering an upgrade to a larger property with a view of the bay. Amanda's eyes shone with undisguised envy as Jessica showed pictures of the master suite and infinity pool. It has a dedicated wine cellar and tasting room, Jessica explained, perfect for entertaining clients. And a home gym larger than most commercial facilities, Brian added. No expense spared on quality of life. As they detailed the property features, I noticed Amanda whispering to Jessica. Though I could not hear everything, the phrase "cannot take it anymore" reached my ears, sending a chill through me. This dinner was not merely uncomfortable. It was the prelude to something worse. The pivotal moment arrived as dessert was being served. Amanda had been drinking steadily throughout the evening, her cheeks flushed and eyes bright with a dangerous energy. As Richard proposed a toast to Diane and their 40 years together, Amanda abruptly reached into my jacket pocket and extracted my wallet. "You want to know what success looks like," she said loudly, silencing all conversation. She opened my wallet and threw it onto the table, spilling its meager contents. 3 credit cards, all maxed out $27 in cash, and past due notices. Her voice rose with each word. "This is what I married. This is what I deal with every day." The table fell silent. I sat frozen, unable to process the public humiliation unfolding before me. "You are a failure. Cannot even pay the bills," she continued, tears of anger streaming down her face. "I cannot live like this anymore. I want a divorce." Brian laughed, a cruel sound in the stunned silence. "She deserves better," he said, eyeing me with contempt, before glancing meaningfully toward the window where my old Toyota sat among luxury vehicles. "Some men just cannot provide the basics, let alone a decent life." Richard and Diane exchanged glances but offered no defense on my behalf. Jessica placed a consoling hand on Amanda's arm, shooting me a look of disgust. "I have tried to be patient," Amanda continued. "I have tried to be supportive. But I cannot be married to someone who drags me down. My friends pity me. My family pities me. I deserve more than this." The room spun around me as 2 realizations crystallized simultaneously. The woman I loved had just destroyed any remnant of dignity I had left, and not a single person at the table was surprised or offended by her behavior. This narrative of me as a failure had been constructed long before tonight dinner. I did not yell. I did not defend myself. I simply stood, gathered the contents of my wallet with steady hands, and spoke quietly. "Thank you for dinner. Excuse me." With those words, I walked out, ignoring Amanda's calls to come back and finish the conversation. There was nothing left to say. At home, while Amanda presumably continued venting to her family, I began investigating our finances more thoroughly. What I discovered explained her escalating hostility. Amanda had been secretly spending far beyond our means, opening credit card accounts I knew nothing about. Designer clothes with tags still attached hung in her closet. Receipts for expensive lunches and spa days with Jessica littered her desk drawer. Most shocking was the discovery that she had withdrawn nearly $15,000 from our joint savings account, the emergency fund we had built together during better times. The withdrawal coincided with Jessica and Brian Maldives' trip timing, suggesting Amanda may have funded her own unannounced vacation or shopping spree. In that moment, I knew our marriage was beyond saving. The public humiliation was merely the final act in a relationship that had been corroding from within for months. Amanda had not been looking for a partner to weather difficult times. She had been seeking a provider for the lifestyle she felt entitled to. With methodical calm, I packed essential clothes, personal documents, and irreplaceable mementos. I transferred my portion of our remaining joint funds to my personal account, leaving enough to cover upcoming household bills. I contacted a lawyer friend for preliminary divorce advice, explaining the situation in detail. Then, checking my email one last time before leaving, I found a message I had missed during the disastrous dinner. The startup I had interviewed with last week was offering me a position as Senior Development Lead, with a compensation package nearly double my previous salary. The irony was not lost on me. I accepted immediately arranged temporary housing at an extended stay hotel and wrote Amanda a brief note explaining that I would be in touch through legal channels. As I drove away from the house we had once proudly purchased together, I felt an unexpected lightness. The shame and humiliation began to transform into something else, determination. 4 days passed, with no contact. I established myself in a small but comfortable apartment, threw myself into preparation for my new position, and began the process of rebuilding my life independently. On the 5th day, I checked my voicemail to find 13 messages, a digital timeline of emotions ranging from rage to desperation. The first 3 were from Amanda. Progression from anger. How dare you just leave to confusion? Where are you staying? Why would you not answer my calls to the beginning of worry? Jason, please call me back. We need to talk about this. Richard had called twice, his authoritative tone commanding me to act like a man and face the situation, rather than running away. Diane's message expressed concern about Amanda's emotional state, while subtly suggesting I had abandoned my responsibilities. The remaining messages came from Amanda, increasingly frantic as reality set in. The final one, left at 2:35 a.m., contained audible sobbing and a whispered, "I am sorry. Please come home. I made a terrible mistake." During this time, I received my final compensation from my previous employer, including unexpected stock options that had vested and a bonus that had been approved before the layoffs but never processed. My financial situation, which Amanda had so publicly ridiculed, had transformed literally overnight. My new position welcomed me with respect and appreciation for my experience. My team was collaborative, the projects challenging, and the company culture emphasized work-life balance rather than constant crisis management. For the first time in months, I felt valued professionally. After 2 weeks of legal consultations and personal reflection, I agreed to meet Amanda at a neutral coffee shop to discuss our future. She arrived early, dressed immaculately, but with telltale signs of stress etching her features. Her surprise at my appearance was evident. I had purchased new clothes appropriate for my senior position, and the confidence of financial security had restored something in my demeanor she had not seen in months. "You look different," she said, studying me intently. "I am different," I replied simply. As we talked, I maintained calm detachment, explaining that her actions at her mother's birthday dinner had revealed fundamental truths about our relationship that could not be unlearned. I described discovering her secret spending and unauthorized withdrawals, watching her nod with shame as each deception was named. "I was afraid," she admitted. "Everyone around me seemed to be moving forward while we were struggling. Jessica has everything I thought I would have by now. Fear does not justify humiliation or dishonesty," I responded. "A partnership means facing challenges together, not undermining each other at the first sign of trouble." When I mentioned my new position and improved financial situation, Amanda's eyes widened with a recognition that wounded me more than her previous contempt. I saw calculation replace remorse, possibilities rearranging themselves in her mind. "We can start over," she suggested, reaching for my hand. "With your new job, we can get back on track. Maybe even look at houses in Jessica neighborhood." I withdrew my hand gently but firmly. "Our problems were never really about money, Amanda. They were about respect, honesty, and shared values. Money coming back does not fix what broke between us." The conversation ended with her tears and my polite but firm commitment to proceeding with divorce. As I left the coffee shop, I felt neither triumph nor bitterness, just clarity. A week later, I encountered Brian at an upscale restaurant where I was meeting colleagues. He appeared startled to see me in such surroundings, more so when the maitre d' greeted me by name. After awkward pleasantries, he confided that his real estate empire was largely smoke and mirrors, built on leveraged properties and mounting debt. The market had shifted, leaving him overextended and secretly terrified of collapse. "Nobody knows," he whispered. "Not Jessica, not the family. I would appreciate your discretion. The man who had laughed at my perceived failure was now asking for my silence about his own. I promised not to share his secret, recognizing that public humiliation served no constructive purpose, something his family had yet to learn. As summer turned to fall, I reconnected with former colleagues also displaced by layoffs. One in particular, Mark, had been struggling to find suitable employment despite his considerable talents. I recommended him to my new company, where he eventually joined a different department. His gratitude was unnecessary. Competent people deserve opportunities regardless of temporary setbacks. My life found new rhythm. I explored interests long neglected during my marriage, joined a hiking group, and eventually began dating Rachel, a software engineer whose kindness and authentic nature provided sharp contrast to my previous relationship. She valued achievement, but recognized that worth transcended professional status or financial metrics. Through mutual friends, I learned that Amanda's parents had been forced to sell their vacation property to cover unexpected losses from Richard business. Brian and Jessica had downsized dramatically their carefully curated social media presence, notably absent of luxury updates. Amanda had moved back home temporarily, her marketing position eliminated during company restructuring. These developments brought me no satisfaction. Pain rarely teaches lasting lessons when inflicted on others. It merely perpetuates cycles of resentment. Instead, I found growth through my own experience of betrayal and recovery. The greatest lesson from my marriage collapse was recognizing the difference between price and value. People who measure relationships by financial metrics will always find the balance sheet wanting during difficult times. True partnership requires valuing what cannot be quantified: loyalty, respect, and unwavering support through inevitable life fluctuations. As I build this new chapter, I remain open to connection while honoring my own worth. Real love does not diminish during hardship, but rather reveals its true strength. Sometimes the most powerful step forward requires walking away from those who cannot see your value beyond your wallet. Have you ever experienced someone measuring your worth purely by financial success? How did you handle that situation? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe to hear more real-life experiences, and share with someone who might need this message today. Remember, your value never decreases based on someone's inability to see your worth. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep your head high and your standards higher.